Hi, I'm Mick Abrahams. That number I just played you was an old traditional folk blues number called Billy the Kid. It's one that I include in my set on stage. It's especially adaptable for bottleneck or slide guitar. To play this way, we need to use an open chord tuning. That particular one was a G chord. So first of all, let's go get tuned. The first chord we're going to deal with is an open G tuning. Remember, normally when we're in concert pitch, we go from left to right, i.e. from the E bass string up to the E treble string in E, A, D, G, B, E, or concert pitch. In this instance, we're going to change all the strings, or some of them, detune them and retune them to form an open G chord tuning. The E string, or bass E string, we detune to a low D. The A string, we retune to G. The D string remains the same at D, the G string remains the same at G, the B string remains the same at B, and the high E or treble E we detune to D. This forms a complete G chord. You may well be wondering what this little black device is at the end of my guitar here. It's called a trilogy bridge, and it makes my life a little bit more simple. Simply by moving these cams to varying positions here, I can obtain immediately the different chord tunings that we've been discussing. You may well want to pick one up at a later stage. The first thing you're going to need is a bottleneck or a slider. Now, there are simply hundreds of these on the market, so it's purely a case of you finding the one that you feel most comfortable with. Here are three that I use. The first one is a brass one, quite light and easy to use. The second one is a slightly heavier one. It's made from thicker brass, and it has a concave shape. Makes it easier to get up to some of those top notes, and you can still retain the bass notes. The third one is the one that I use most commonly, which is a chromium one, and I find that one more easy to use. Again, that's a personal thing. You choose the one that's best for you. The next thing you're going to need to do is to ensure that the strings on your guitar are raised to a certain degree, again, whichever you feel comfortable with, from the fretboard itself. For example, the first chord we're going to be dealing with is the open G chord, as we've just discussed, with a drop D. First of all, if we play from the A string downwards, we've got an open G. If I place my index finger at the 5th position and make a bar, and again play from the A string downwards, we have a C. Move it up a tone, 2 semitones or 2 frets to the 7th position, and we have a D chord. Let's put those three together, see how they sound. Here's a very simple but effective thing that you can do with the G chord tuning. You may well want to use this at some point in time. Simply by taking the A string and playing it downwards, and then playing the drop D, or the last note. Sounds like this. The next chord is the C. We bar across at the 5th position, like I showed you before. And lastly, at the 7th position, same again. them together and they sound like this. The next chord in the sequence is a C 7th 9th. Now this is slightly more difficult, so you're going to have to be very aware of those flexibility exercises that we've just discussed. Okay, watch my hand. My index finger is making a bar at the 5th position, and the 3rd pinky is coming across to place it on the G string at the 2nd position in this bar, and my 4th finger is coming over at the 3rd position. You're going to stretch here, you really do need to stretch it. But it sounds lovely if you play it right. It sounds like this. I can't emphasize strongly enough how you must press down very hard, because otherwise you're going to get this, which is not going to sound very nice at all. So press hard and you get this. Let's go on to the next chord now. In the open D position, with my index finger, I'm barring across at the 7th, and I'm putting my middle finger on the G string at the 2nd position within that bar, and again my 4th finger comes over and stretches onto the D string in the 3rd position. Sounds like this, a D 7th 9th. Sounds nice and open and full, doesn't it? Try that. Okay, let's make with a bottleneck now. Let's do some slide and see how we get on. Watch my hands very carefully. As you can see here, I'm simply laying the bottleneck just a little bit back from the 10th fret, and I'm playing from the G string downwards just these 3 notes, the G, the B and the E. A little bit of vibrato there just to make it sound bluesy. And all I'm doing here is I'm simply sliding it up a tone, or 2 semitones or 2 frets, so as it reaches the 12th position. This is how it sounds when you do it like this. Sounds nice, doesn't it? Now you try it. Okay, the last simple bit in this bottleneck sequence goes like this. Watch my hands very carefully again. I'm playing just behind the 3rd position on the A string and opening the A string, and the next position is just behind the 3rd position on the D string and sliding it upwards up the fretboard to reach the 5th position. Put together it sounds like this. Put them all together, sounds like this. Okay, practice that. This number is called Dear Jill. I wrote it around 25 years ago, and it first appeared on the very first Blobwin Pick album. The reason we're doing this is there's a very simple chord structure to it and very simple bottleneck playing, very much like the last thing that we've just covered. First of all, I'm going to show you how to make the most essential chord that is the integral part of this song. It goes like this. Watch my fingers closely now. Still using the open G chord tuning, this is the integral chord that forms the basis of the song. The first pinky or first finger at the 1st position on the B string, middle pinky on the 2nd position on the D string. What we do here is we play from the A note downwards, play the whole chord, and at the next stroke we put those two fingers in the previous positions that I've just showed you firmly on. At the next stroke, we take them off. So it's on, off, on, off. We play the first chord that I showed you, open, the next bit closed, open, and then slide. I'll show you again once more slowly. Particularly put some push behind that little bottleneck riff. Don't lay your bottleneck too heavy on the strings, but put it very firmly and gently. And the best part to do it with is your heart. Don't forget that. Once more, but put together. There's another chord here. The first one is an A 7th 9th. We're going to play with the index finger, make your bar across at the second position, and again these two pinkies in the middle to make that 7th 9th shape. The other one is a simple triad chord which forms the middle part of the song. It goes like this. What I'm doing here is playing these three notes. My fourth finger is placed just behind the 7th fret at the 6th position. My first finger, or index finger, is placed in the 5th position on the G string, and my middle pinky, which comes over here, is placed on the 6th position on the D string. Just play them gently like this. Just to finalise the chord, notice that I'm playing the E string open as well. Gives that kind of nice jangly but a minory sad effect. When I play the song again, you're going to see me do something down here. This is a very simple way of just picking across the strings and making them sound nice and open and flowing. All I'm doing is I'm picking with my middle finger on my right hand. I'm playing the open note from the 5th string downwards, which is a G. With my middle finger, I'm picking these next notes. Watch very carefully. They're all straight in a line, so you shouldn't have too much difficulty doing this. And then back to the basic open chord again. And right at the end, we go back to the open chord yet again, and this leads us back into the riff. Now the riff, as you've obviously heard just by the previous piece that I've played, contains some slide work. Now what I want to show you here is how to actually bring that riff and open it up and using the slide. We're going to be using 4 notes this time to create the slide up, or that bluesy sound. Watch my hands very carefully. This time we make the slide still from the 10th position, very much in the same way as I first showed you, but this time we're going to be playing from the D downwards. In actual fact, 4 notes. And sliding up to the 12th position yet again. To make the whole thing complete, we play the first chord that I showed you, open, the next bit closed, open, and then slide. I'll show you again once more slowly. Okay, let's try it with the backing track. Let's play Dear Jill together. How did that feel? This next number is in the key of E, so you're going to have to reset or retune your guitar to the correct pitch. The E chord tuning. The E or bass E remains exactly the same. The A string we retune to B, the D string we retune to E, the G string we retune to G sharp. The B string remains the same and the high E or the treble E remains the same at E. This forms a complete E chord. This piece is fairly straightforward. It's a standard blues riff. I'm sure at some point in time you've heard this before. I'm sure we all have from time to time. Okay, what I'm going to do now is play the piece itself to give you the idea of the little bits of bottleneck and slide that you can do within it. It's very simple, it's very straightforward again, and don't forget again, that is what this teaching lesson is all about. We're getting you to play what I show you your way. Check it out. Here comes the count. Couple of new bits in there, and again very straightforward. There are one or two little tricky bits with the bottleneck playing, but I think we can go through that very simply and get you started with that. The only difference is the chord that I play at the end there, which is again it's an E chord, but it's very straightforward and it's not unsimilar to the way we played the chord in the previous number in the G chord, only this time of course remember we're in the key of E. It's still a straightforward open E chord and we're playing from the 6th string downwards, because remember the 6th string is actually E in this instance. And what I'm doing here is I'm placing my first pinky or my index finger at the first position on the G string and my middle pinky on the second position on the A string. When you close and open, again gives you that nice chunky, fairly typical R&B shuffle rhythm. I'll do it just to show you once. Again, that's quite easy. Okay, let's now talk about the bottlenecking. As you probably noticed, again we're starting here at the 12th position. They're very straightforward. I'm playing these two notes at the 12th position. Again, don't forget to put the bottleneck very slightly behind the fret. Don't put it straight on the fret, else you will find that the tone will be sharp. And don't forget, press gently but firmly to get a very clean. Okay, so we're using these first two notes and we're playing downstrokes. And the next note starts at the 11th position just behind the G string and slides up to the 12th, and the final note that you touch will be the D at the 12th position. Put them together and they sound like this. Okay, that's the first part dealt with. Let's break the next part down when we go up to the A. Watch my hands very carefully. All I'm doing here is I'm laying the bottleneck just behind the 3rd fret on the G string and sliding it directly up to the 5th position and playing the next note down on the B note, which is this. Put together, it sounds like this. If you want to, you can even play both of the notes together on the last bit, just to make it a little bit more melodic. Once again, play it with a bit of heart. Make it feel like it's part of you. That's what good blues and good feel music is all about. Straight from the old heart. And finally, we'll deal with the B chord. Watch my hands very carefully once again. I'm putting the bottleneck behind the 5th position on the G string, and I'm running it up to the 7th position. And instead of playing the next note on, which is the B string, I'm omitting that, and instead I'm striking the E string at the 7th position. Put together, it sounds like this. Okay, let's play it together and see how we get on. Take your time, make it feel like it's part of you. Let's go. Okay, now we're going to go on to something completely different. Yes, I know a lot of you out there have heard that one, but seriously, we are going to do something very, very different now. I'm going to show you how to make an atmosphere with some just very simple, emotive kind of lines. I'll put a little bit more reverberation or a bit of atmosphere on the guitar to give the idea of just how effective it is. This time, we're going to be using the key of C. This is how we tune for a C chord tuning. The E or bass string we detune to a low C, the A string we retune to G, the D string we retune to C, the G remains the same at G, the B string we retune to C, and the high or treble E string remains the same at E. This forms a complete C chord. I'm going to play a couple of things. I want you to just listen very carefully and close your eyes and imagine the various situations that this particular atmosphere creates. Here we go. I wonder what you were thinking as you listened to those pieces of music. Did it conjure up pictures in your mind? Did it make you feel emotional in any way? Remember, music is an emotional thing. It can conjure up pictures of violence, love, hate, sex, sadness, happiness. And that is the important part of good music. It will make you feel something. Let's deal with the first part of that. Let's deal with the little triad chord that I played just up on the top end here. Okay, I'm placing my middle finger over the 3rd position on the E string. My 4th finger comes over and places on the B string at the 4th position. And finally, my index finger or 1st finger comes over on the G string and puts it in the same place as the 1st string at the 3rd position. This makes the triad. Now, we've gone through this before in the last album. Triads are very simple and again very effective ways of making your music more emotional. What I'm doing here is I'm simply sliding from the last position, from the one I've just shown you now, upwards. And at the same time, I'm playing this note here, which is a C. Watch closely now. I'm actually playing from the D string downwards, straight onto the triad, but I'm starting at one point behind it, or one fret, or a semitone behind it. Now what I'm doing with my other hand at the same time, these two fingers, my middle finger and my fourth finger on my right hand, I'm plucking these two strings. So as I play the C note and bring it up a semitone, back to the original position we started in, it gives you that nice kind of ring. And as I come up to the last position, I'm actually playing the whole four notes. Remember, from the D string downwards. Let's start. It goes like this. If you like, you can play all the strings together. It really doesn't matter. Again, it's down to you. I'll just demonstrate it to give you the idea. The last part of that, all I was doing was actually hitting the really nice deep bass note, because it's one of the lowest you can get to, and it really sends a shudder through your spine if you do it right. Very simple but very effective. All I'm doing there is I'm putting my index finger at the second position on the really deep C, or the E string, and pulling it over and bending it up to meet the A string. Okay, that shouldn't be too hard. The next thing that I did was very simple again. I was just stroking the strings with the bottleneck, in this particular instance, behind the third fret. Don't forget, lay it just behind the third fret. And please, please remember, don't push it down too hard, else you'll get that nasty kind of fret sound, which is not too clever. Nice and gently, and playing all the notes from the D position downwards, or the D string downwards, and take it up a tone, or two frets, or two semitones, like this. And then down again. If you want to be really clever, make it sound that little bit more bright, take it up from that position right up to the 12th fret. Here's a nice couple of things you could do, again very simple, but that appertain most specifically to just this chord. It has its own haunting kind of quality. Again, watch carefully. Don't forget, with this part of your hand, damp the other strings slightly. This will make it sound even more effective. So keep your hand there on that bridge, but let these first two strings open. First of all, from the 12th position, we play the B and the E string, and we take the first string, or the E string, up to the 15th position. Even further, taking that again up to the 18th position, and bringing it all the way back down and giving it a little bit of vibrato. I'll show you once again. If you want to be a little bit more clever, tack some stuff on the end that we've already covered, you can play the whole four notes again. Here we go. Okay, we're staying in C. I'm going to show you just a little country thing you can do, which is quite a nice little intro. Again, you can use this in a blues song or even in a jazz song. It really doesn't matter. Again, you make the decision. I'm just here to show you. So don't forget, work hard. Don't take a lot, you know. Here we go. Okay, at the 8th position, my index finger on my left hand is placed very firmly on the E string. My middle pinky is placed on the 9th position on the G string, and that gives us this. Watch carefully also my right hand, because what I'm doing here is I'm holding the pick against the G string and just literally with my middle finger on my right hand plucking that other string, the E string. What I'm going to do after that is place the bottleneck just behind the 10th fret and slide it up 1 semitone or 2 frets or 2 semitones back up to the 12th position, and that will give you this. Put it together, it sounds like this. That's a fairly typical lick or riff that you'd hear in a country song, but believe me, it's really effective, so work on it. Let's get on the case once more. Let's move along right now to the next bit, and you can see just how we can use a few effective chords and the odd bottleneck lick to make it sound really sweet. Okay, let's move. Let's deal with the D tuning now. It's not a chord that I use a great deal. I've written a couple of songs with it, that's for sure. What I want to do here is give you a little bit more ammunition for your armoury so that you can expand your thoughts and your feelings with it. I'm going to show you a few basic shapes and a few very basic bits of bottlenecking. Okay, let's crack on with this bit now. This is how to obtain a D chord tuning. The E or bass string we detune to a low D. The A string remains the same at A, the D string remains the same at D, the G string we retune to F sharp, the B string we tune to A, and lastly the E or high treble string we detune to D. This forms a complete D chord. In this instance, even though the low E is actually tuned to a low D, we can use the whole chord, because the actual chord itself is not unsimilar in structure to the E chord that we've been discussing previously. Okay, let's get started with that and see how we get on. Just show you something very simple now with triads. They're the things we discussed earlier. Same shapes, watch my hand. The first finger is on the first position on the G string, my fourth finger is on the second position on the D string, and my last or middle finger is on the A string at the second position. And what we're going to do is we're going to play from the E string downwards and just play first of all these 4 notes. It sounds like this. If we move them up a tone or 2 semitones or 2 frets, we still play the open bass note, same 4 strings, it sounds like this. If we then, with this finger, this may be a little bit more difficult, but again, it's worth pursuing because it does sound nice. Make a bar at the 5th position across the A, the D and the G string, and again, keep playing the open D string. Move it up a tone or 2 semitones or 2 frets, same thing, hold the strings down, then at the 7th position, keep playing the open D. Again, we're going to do a triad. Watch now, my index finger is at the 8th position on the G string, the 9th position on the D string, and the 9th position on the A string. And then don't forget to play that open D note. One more to go. We're making a bar this time with the index finger across the A, the D and the G, still playing that open D. And finally, move it a tone or 2 semitones or 2 frets up to the final position, which is the 12th. If you want to, you can do something really clever in the middle here. When we go to this position where my first finger is on the G string at the 8th, my 4th finger on the D string at the 9th, and my middle 4 strings, play the whole chord right across. It sounds like this. Nice and open. Okay, let's take it very slowly. I'll go through the whole thing so you can see just how the progression works. It's quite melodic and it's quite nice. Pretty, ain't it? Okay, I said I was going to teach you a couple of things with Bottleneck at the start of this particular section. Let me just show you how using all that we've just done gels together when you use a simple Bottleneck phrase at the end of it to make it sweet. Did you notice that little bell-like sound on the end? Here's a little footnote for you, something to end up a nice chord nicely with. We love that word nicely, don't we just? Okay. All I'm doing here is making a harmonic. You get them simply by putting your finger above the actual fret, in this case the 12th fret, and pressing on the note very, very lightly and picking with your other hand, again very gently. To make that ringing, pealing of bells sound, all you do is stroke across those 4 strings and play your bass note. Okay, let's go back to the first chord we started this session with, the G chord. I'm going to do a number now which I wrote called Dead Man's Hill from the Lies album. Going to go through it once again with you very slowly and in bits and pieces so you can see how it all gels together. First of all, I'm going to play it to you. Just one round so you can see how it all puts together. Here we go. Here comes the count. Okay, that was quite lively and up-tempo. Let's break the whole song down now into different sections. The first part we'll deal with is the chord work. Watch my hands. If I put my first finger at the first position on the B string and my middle finger on the second position on the D string, and then alternatively move my 4th finger up to the 3rd position on the D string and play it in a downward motion. The second part of how to put this together is we play from the A string downwards so as it sounds like this. And with this finger on my right hand, play the last note, which is the top E. So it sounds like this. Now I'm going to show you how, with a few simple Bottleneck parts, we can put all of that together. Watch my hands closely once more. Okay, as before, we discussed those simple 3-note slides which are so effective in a blues rock kind of number. Again, the same thing applies here. The next chord is actually an F. So what I'm doing, I'm putting the Bottleneck at the 10th position. When I play these 3 open notes here, we're making an F shape, in fact. But to make it sound bluesy and more effective, I'm playing from the D downwards onto the G and the B and sliding it up. That's just a semitone. The last part of it, I'm playing from the A note downwards and just playing on the A, the D and the G. Put together, it sounds like this. We move on to the next chord, which is a C. Again, same fingering exactly applies, only this time we're doing it at the 5th position. Do the two again very slowly so you can see how they gel. Let's go on to the next part, the last part now, and see how all that works. You having a good time still? This is a little bit more difficult than what we've done before, but please persevere. Don't forget, keep that flexibility, keep that movement going, and most of all, keep your heart. Okay, let's crack on with the last part now. I'm placing the bottleneck just very, very slightly behind the second fret, and I'm playing the D and the G string and bringing it downwards. And then I'm opening up the strings to make the whole chord. Put together it sounds like this. And in the last part, the little lead lick that I do is quite simple. Open G, put the middle finger on the third position on the D string, bring it down one, open it, and at the second position on the A string, don't forget we're still tuned to G. You see what I'm doing now? I'm actually slowing the string over and just to make it up to this position. Instead it sounds nicer when you pull it. Open it up, and on the last, the one that we've tuned down to D, the low D, which gives it that nice kind of rocky effect, pull that right over. Do you see what I'm doing? I'm actually pulling it over and actually then hitting the last note, which will be the G. Let's just put that bit together very slowly so you can see exactly how it all comes together. Very important to remember to really feel those last notes because they really make the important part of the song. Now the last bit, the little lead lick that I played after the 4-bar chord intro. Watch my hands very carefully. I'm placing the bottleneck just a little bit behind the 12th fret, actually on the 11th, and bringing it down. But we're playing single notes this time. We're playing from the B and the E. We bring it down. And slide it up to that last position. Back down to the 12th position. See, we've covered a lot of this before, so again, this is going to be easier for you, for it all to fall in place. I'll do it slowly, once more. Okay, putting it all together time once again. I've slowed the track down so we can all play together. Here comes the count. Wait for it. Okay, what I can't teach you to do is improvise. But what I'd like to do now is so that we can groove together and so that you can use some of the ammunition I've given you for your armoury, the chords, the licks, the tricks, I want you to imagine that you're part of the whole thing, which indeed you are. So we're going to play the song round twice. On the first bit, I'm going to improvise and play a few licks and bits and pieces. On the last part, I'm just going to be the rhythm guitar player, and you're going to be the lead player. So let's groove together now. Here comes the track. Okay, I'd like to show you now how, still using the open G chord tuning, we can get some rather nice melodic little tunes. I'm not using a bottleneck this time. This is a pastoral piece. It's something that I composed and it's on the Lies album. It's simply called Gnats. I hope you enjoy it. Sadly, that brings us to the end of this teaching session. Only kidding. I've enjoyed doing that. I hope you've enjoyed it, and I hope you've got a few bits of extra ammunition for that musical armoury of yours. In the next teaching session, we're going to be looking at doing a few more simple licks, both on the ordinary guitar and the bottleneck guitar, but most importantly, we're going to cover actually putting it into use, playing with a band situation. Don't forget, keep practicing. Take care.